Sports. Bear down, Denzel Ward, Chicago Bears, Navy and Orange. Ralph Vacchiano from Fox Sports just put it on the table, and this is not a Twitter rumor. This is a report from one of the most connected beat reporters in the entire NFL, five-time Pro Bowler, 3 consecutive, the cornerback who lines up against the best receiver on the field every single week without complaining. And the Cleveland Browns, deep in a rebuild, would be willing to move his contract. Vacchiano said it explicitly, but there is a question Poles has to answer right now because Jordan Reed from ESPN dropped a piece of information that completely changed the draft board. The grades on Caden McDonald and Peter Woods could be second round. Not first. That opens a massive door, one that leads straight to Dexter Lawrence requesting a trade out of New York and to a defensive tackle from Iowa State nicknamed Big Citrus, who silenced every scout in the building at his private workout this week. And once you understand how all those pieces connect, the news on Jadeveon Clowney and what Colin Cowherd said about the Bears' 2026 schedule on Fox Sports is going to hit different because that schedule has zero margin for error, and Poles knows it. All of that is in this video. If you trust the Ryan Poles process, hit that like button right now and subscribe to join the Real Bear Nation. Let's go! All right, here's what went down. Ralph Vacchiano over at Fox Sports, one of the most plugged-in beat reporters in the NFL, dropped a report saying the Chicago Bears could be looking at Denzel Ward, the cornerback from the Cleveland Browns. 5-time Pro Bowler, 29 years old, 2 years left on his contract, and the Browns reportedly would be willing to move him to free up some cap space. Hold on, Denzel Ward in Chicago, in Navy and Orange. That does not feel real, but here we are. Quick context so you understand the full picture. The Bears signed Cam Lewis this offseason and also brought in Kobe Bryant. Both are solid pieces, but let us be honest, they are not the kind of players that make opposing offensive coordinators lose sleep the night before a game. Denzel Ward is different. This man has made 3 straight Pro Bowls in 2023, 2024, and 2025. 5 total across his career. And yeah, last season he dealt with a neck injury and only played 15 games, with his numbers dipping a little from 2024 when he posted 19 pass deflections and 2 interceptions across 16 games. But he is still an elite cornerback, the kind of guy who shadows the best receiver on the field every single week without complaint. Vacchiano was very specific in his breakdown. He said, quote, "They need help all over their defense, but upgrading at cornerback might be their biggest priority." And then he added that Ward could either be the Bears' third corner or step in for the erratic Tyreek Stevenson. That second option is what I find most tactically interesting. Stevenson has undeniable physical talent, but his consistency has been a real problem. There were games last year where he just looked like he was on a completely different planet and not the good kind. Denzel Ward stepping in as a starting corner on the right side of Dennis Allen's defense would be a massive upgrade. And if you use him as your third corner in nickel packages, suddenly you have a secondary with genuine elite depth. The financial angle matters too. Ward has 2 years left on his deal. The Browns are clearly in rebuild mode, and they have real incentives to move that salary and get reps for younger guys. And the Bears, listen to this, the Bears have 2 second-round picks and a third-rounder in this draft. Vacchiano specifically mentioned that with that day 2 ammunition, Chicago has the assets to make that trade happen. Now, here's where I keep it a buck with y'all because it is not all shine and sparkle here. The first question I have is, at what cost? If Ryan Poles uses 1 or even 2 of those day 2 picks to bring Ward to Halas Hall, he is basically cutting into his ability to fix the interior defensive line through the draft. And that, fam, is problem number 1 for this defense. The interior pass rush and run defense were a disaster last year. The Bears ranked bottom 6 in run defense across the entire NFL in 2025. That does not get fixed just by adding a cornerback, no matter how elite. Second question, how healthy is Ward actually? Neck injury in 2025. Only 15 games. Numbers declined. He is 29. That is not old, but at cornerback, age works differently. Speed and instincts are everything at that position, and any sign of decline deserves real attention. Look, I could be wrong, but my gut says that if Poles can get Ward for a second-round pick that is not his highest one, the one he might use on Caden McDonald or someone of that caliber, and in doing so, he seals the secondary while the draft fixes the trenches, that starts making a whole lot of sense. Dennis Allen built his defense in New Orleans around a strong secondary that complemented a dominant defensive line. If you have Jaylon Johnson on the outside and Ward on the other side, That is a legitimate playoff caliber secondary right there in the Windy City. The real debate here, and I want y'all to answer this in the comments below, is this: do you spend day 2 assets on an elite corner with an injury history, or do you keep those picks to fix the defensive trenches in the draft? That is the million-dollar question for Ryan Poles right now. And speaking of that draft and those trench decisions, because there is a story that just changed the entire conversation around what is going to happen at pick 25. And it opens a door that nobody expected 2 weeks ago. All right, there are several connected threads here, and I am going to tie them all together because together they tell a very specific story about how Ryan Poles might be thinking about this draft. First, the bombshell from ESPN's Jordan Reed. He is hearing from teams around the league that both Peter Woods from Clemson and Caden McDonald from Ohio State could have second-round grades. Not first round, second round. Reed was direct about it. The inconsistencies from Woods throughout the season and during the pre-draft process have led most teams he has spoken to put an early to mid second round mark on him, and McDonald has mixed reviews because of his lack of pass rushing ability, with many teams saying they would not use a first-round pick on a 2-down interior defender. This is huge for the Bears, because if both players could fall to the second round, suddenly that pick 25 does not need to be spent there. You trade back, you stack more picks, and you still get one of them in the second. Win-win for Chicago, but there is a third option that popped up in a mock draft from Athlon Sports that honestly blew my mind. Luke Easterling simulated a trade where the Bears send pick 25 to the New York Giants in exchange for Dexter Lawrence. 2-time All-Pro, 3-time Pro Bowler, the man who, when healthy, can literally shut down an opponent's run game by himself. Lawrence just requested a trade out of New York. He is under contract for 2 more seasons on a 4-year, $90 million extension he signed back in 2023, and the Giants are clearly in full rebuild mode. Easterling wrote, quote, "It looks like Lawrence wants a change of scenery." And the Giants could find a willing trade partner in the Bears who need the interior dominance he brings to the defensive trenches. Now, is this realistic? Look, a pick 25 for Dexter Lawrence is probably a cheap price from the Giants' perspective, considering what Lawrence represents. Personally, I think New York would ask for more than that, but the concept itself is valid. If the Bears genuinely believe Woods and McDonald will be available in the second round anyway, why not use pick 25 on a proven elite interior tackle instead of rolling the dice on a rookie? The obvious counterargument is that Poles has been crystal clear about his philosophy of building through the draft. Spending pick 25 on a veteran runs counter to that development-first mindset, but Poles is also pragmatic. If the right piece is available at the right price, he has never shown he will be paralyzed by his own philosophy. Just ask the offensive line he assembled last year, and now here comes the most fun player in this whole conversation. Dominique Orange, nicknamed Big Citrus, and yeah, that nickname alone justifies him getting his own mention. Orange is a defensive tackle out of Iowa State, 6'2", 322 pounds, projected for day 2, and the Bears were one of 10 teams that attended his private workout this week. Beat reporters who were there noted that Orange posted a 10-yard split of 1.68 seconds for a tackle over 300 pounds coming back from a quad injury that wiped out his combine and pre-draft process. That is an elite number. His college stats are not glamorous. His best season was 2024 with 1 sack and 4.5 tackles for loss. In 2025, no sacks and half a tackle for loss. So what makes him interesting? The tape shows he is a pure space eater, the guy who occupies double teams, frees up the linebackers to make tackles, and maintains the gap integrity that Dennis Allen needs for his system to work. His run defense grade at Iowa State was dominant. The pass rush is limited, yes, but if the Bears are going to have Dennis Allen running thick front schemes, Big Citrus fits perfectly as the anchor up the middle. Some analysts compare him to Gervin Dexter at a higher level, and Dexter has been inconsistent with his run defense, ranking 107th among all tackles in the league last year. Orange has the profile to be better in that specific role. And if the Bears trade back from 25, or even if they stay and take McDonald in the first, Big Citrus could be exactly the kind of day 2 or day 3 steal that completes the interior rotation. Poles has 2 second-round picks and a third-rounder. The space is there. So the most optimistic scenario looks like this: McDonald in the first round, or via a trade back in the second, Orange as big citrus in the second or third, add Dexter Lawrence if the price is right, and suddenly that interior defensive line that was a disaster in 2025 becomes a group that can compete with anyone in the NFC. Too optimistic? Maybe, but the Bears have the assets to try. Okay, bro, but there is an elephant in the room, and that elephant is the edge rush, because none of it matters if the opposing quarterback has all day to throw. And there is news on that front, too. Jadeveon Clowney is still a free agent. The former Cowboys edge rusher who led Dallas in sacks last season with 8.5 in 13 games and 40 pressures is still out there available, and Pro Football and Sports Network has flagged the Bears as a potential landing spot. The Dallas situation is straightforward. The Cowboys moved to a 3-4 system and decided Clowney is not a fit. Clowney pushed back publicly and hard. He said, quote, "Ain't no scheme I can't play in 3-4 to 4-3 to whatever down scheme that you had. I think I've proved that I can play in them all, and not just play in them, but also dominate in them schemes." That kind of confidence, whether you believe it or question it, tells you this man is coming in motivated to prove people wrong. Why does he fit in Chicago? First, Dayo Odeyingbo is a massive question mark. He is coming off a torn Achilles in 2025, and before that, he was already struggling to generate consistent pressure. Depending on him as your primary edge rusher in 2026 is a huge bet. Second, whatever rookie they draft, no matter how talented, is unlikely to be a dominant factor in year one. That is asking too much. Clowney, on a one-year deal, fills that gap. His 16.7% pass rush win rate last year placed him top 15 among all edge rushers in the league. That is not a player in decline. That is a high-level rotational piece who can cause real damage in 20 to 25 snaps per game. You do not need Clowney playing 60 snaps. You rotate him with Odeyingbo, with Booker, with the rookie they draft, and suddenly you have real depth at edge. That is what a championship caliber roster looks like. The risk is the injury history, and it is real. Clowney has missed time in almost every season of his career, but on a one-year deal with no long-term guarantees, the financial downside is minimal. And if he stays healthy, the upside is genuine. And speaking of what is coming in 2026, Colin Cowherd dropped a number that every Bears fan should be thinking about. On his Fox Sports show, Cowherd gave Chicago at least 9 wins for the upcoming season, but warned that the road schedule is brutal. Lions, Green Bay, Minnesota, Buffalo, Seattle. 5 road games against teams with real playoff aspirations or better. That is exactly why every single decision the Bears make in this draft and in these last weeks of free agency matters. This is not just about building for the future. It is about building a roster capable of surviving a 2026 schedule that looks like one of the toughest Chicago has faced in years. 9 or 10 wins with that slate would be a major accomplishment. 11, to repeat what they did last year would require this roster to be complete, healthy, and executing at an extremely high level. This is the part of the offseason where everything gets decided. Denzel Ward, Caden McDonald, Dexter Lawrence in a mock, big citrus on day 2, Clowney in free agency. Ryan Poles has the picks, he has the cap space, and he has the vision. The question now is how he mixes all of it so the Bears do not just repeat in 2026, but take that next step towards something bigger. I believe this team has the potential. Caleb Williams is ready. Ben Johnson is ready. The offense is already elite. Now it is the defense's turn to rise to that level. And if Poles builds it right, y'all don't understand. The rest of the NFC is not going to know what hit them. Tell me in the comments what move you would prioritize. The trade for Denzel Ward, locking in McDonald at pick 25, or signing Clowney and betting on big citrus on day 2. The conversation is wide open. And if this video fired you up as much as it did me, drop that like, subscribe if you are new here, and hit that bell because the next few days before the draft are going to be absolutely insane. Bear down, Chicago, always.